Okay, I think we are recording and we are all set to get started. Hopefully you all can see my screen and the slides. So welcome again, everybody. My name is Liz Lev, and I'm one of the facilitators from the Arvin Company facilitation team. I will be joined by my co-facilitator, Amy. We have a few of our Air District representatives joining here tonight as well. Before we jump into our welcome and introductions, let us first take a few moments to walk through these housekeeping slides and get everyone set up in the interpretation channel. So I believe I will invite, excuse me, my voice is going. Would Tanya or Diana like to provide these instructions?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Liz. Buenas tardes. El día de hoy tenemos el servicio de interpretación disponible para aquellas personas que lo requieran. Si se están conectando desde una computadora, en la parte de abajo del menú de Zoom van a ver un icono que parece un mundo que dice interpretación. Hacen clic en ese icono, luego seleccionamos español y luego silenciar el audio original para que puedan escuchar la interpretación del inglés al español. Y si se están conectando desde una tableta o desde un dispositivo móvil, sus opciones son un poco diferentes. Tienen que tocar su pantalla. Seleccionamos los 3 puntos que dice More o Más, luego Interpretación de idiomas o Language Interpretation. Seleccionamos nuevamente Español, silenciar el audio original y una vez que esté terminado, damos terminado, finalizado o listo para que se guarde la opción. Ahora voy a dar las mismas indicaciones, pero en inglés. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll have interpretation available for those who need it. If you're joining from a computer, at the bottom of the Zoom menu, you will see a world-like icon that says interpretation. You can select it and then select English, so you can hear the interpretation from Spanish into English. And if you're joining from a tablet or your phone, you will have to touch your screen, and then you will select the 3 dots, then select language interpretation. You will select English again, and at the end, finish or done, so you can listen to the interpretation again from Spanish into English. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Diana. I'll pause for a moment to see, is anyone having any trouble getting into the interpretation channel? Please do let us know, either unmute or put it in the chat, and we'll be happy to help. If not, I can keep moving us through these logistics slides. So we have our virtual meeting etiquette here. This is just a reminder to please stay on mute unless you are speaking. And if you are on the phone, you can press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. If you would like to ask a question or share a comment, we also ask that you raise your Zoom hand. And again, if you are on the phone, you can do that by pressing *9. And on this slide, we have a review of our group agreements. I won't take the time to read each of them out loud. I'll just focus perhaps on one, let everyone participate. I know we often have a big group, and I see quite a few folks in tonight's meeting. So we just want to encourage anyone who doesn't typically talk or ask questions. We would really love to hear from you and do encourage you to share your thoughts in these meetings. And here is our agenda for tonight. We will have some brief introductions in a moment. Then our main agenda item will be the 1.3D regulation update. Then we'll have a brief pesticide monitoring update, along with some agency updates, and then we will close the meeting with any next steps and public comment. And I'll stop sharing my screen. And so we can move to our welcome and introductions. At this time, we like to invite our Air District reps to share any opening remarks. I see Heather, you unmuted. Want to invite you into the space.
Hello. Thank you, Liz. Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Heinz. I am a program manager with the Valley Air District. And we are very excited to bring together a couple different communities tonight and a bunch of agencies in this space to continue this work. It is our privilege to be here with you. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Heather. And would also love to invite our co-leads. If I think I see Bianca in the room, if you would like to share any opening remarks with the group. Not to put you on the spot.
No opening remarks. I'm actually traveling to Shafter. The ladies are going to listen to the pesticide subcommittee. So hopefully we'll get a good turnout today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. And Cesar, I am not sure if I see you in the meeting tonight. If you are here and I'm missing you, I'll just pause for a moment to see if you would also like to share any opening remarks. I don't think he's in this meeting, so I think we can move forward. And Bianca, great reminder that I believe we have some Shafter residents or CSC members joining tonight. Though this will be a little more focused on the Arvin Lamont CSC as we move through the agenda. But at this point, I am happy to transition us to our 1.3D regulation update. So Yvonne from DPR will be providing this update in Spanish. And so again, just a reminder to select your interpretation channel. We want to again recognize that this has been a top concern and priority topic for the CSC, and we really appreciate DPR coming into this space and providing this update. The presentation should take about up to 20 minutes, and then we'll have at least 20 minutes for questions and discussion. As Yvonne will share, there is a lot of legal and regulatory language that is very specific. And so if there are any clarifying questions as we go through, please do feel free to put those in the chat or raise your hand. We do want to make sure everyone is following and totally understand that there are going to be questions. So if there are clarifying questions, we're happy to take those throughout. And I think just to make sure we get through the whole presentation, we'll save more of the content related questions until the end when we have our discussion. And so with that, I am happy to pass it to Yvonne to get us started.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Iván Delgado, and today I'll be presenting, well, I'll give just a compilation of the regulation that will be effective since January 1st of this year. Can you hear me okay? Yes, that's good. I have my new headsets, so I look a little weird, but so you can hear me clearly. If at any moment my voice is not clear or is cutting off, please let me know. Like Liz already mentioned, during this presentation, if you have any terminology that you need to have more clarity, please interrupt me. And if you want to have a dialogue about the rules, please, we are going to wait until the end of the presentation. For the interpreters, if at any moment I'm speaking too fast or too slow or you're not understanding me, please let me know so I can correct. And we can all have a productive meeting. I'm going to share my screen, right? Or yes? Okay. Yes. Perfect. Is it loading or how is it?
This is Liz.
Yeah,
that works.
Great. Ok, empecemos otra vez para...
We are going to start again to continue.
Hagámoslo de una vez.
We're going to do this.
Represento el departamento
I
de-
represent California Department of Pesticide Regulations, and today we're going to talk about the rules or regulation from 1,3-D. 1,3-D
1,3-dichloropropeno.
or 1,3-dichloropropene. Sorry about that.
Vamos a empezar con la agenda.
And we are going to start with the agenda. We are going to talk about these points. We're going to start with the background.
Un momento.
A moment, please.
Ok. Vamos a empezar con los antecedentes.
We'll start with the background and
Medidas de
then
mitigación.
we'll see the mitigation measures
Los reglamentos.
followed by the regulations. We'll talk about 4 specific points, step backs from structures, methods, and thief tarps, soil moisture requirements, and also the use and report. And at the end, we'll leave some space for questions. And sometimes I see comments, I see that in the chat, somebody is putting something. If you have something that is directed to me, I'm not reading it, so you can interrupt me and you can tell me directly what's happening. So I'm not gonna be checking the chat. Okay, let's continue. Background. 1,3-dichloropropene, also called 1,3-D or telon. It's a pesticide designated as a restricted material by the DPR and can only be used in agriculture. And let's remember that DPR, we are talking about the pesticide department. Yes, Gabriela? I see Gabriela Ojeda with her hand up. Well, let's continue. Second point, restricted materials are considered to have a higher potential to cause harm to human health and the environment. And that's why a license and a permit are required for their application to be able to apply these restricted materials. Even though it's not a rule since 1990, the program, Township Cap program, is limited to the amount of 1,3-D applied in the area. It was intended to mitigate the cancer risk. After a legal challenge, the court ordered DPR to develop these regulations to mitigate those cancer risks produced by the 1,3-D. However, this is still applying today. Mitigation measures. The objective is to mitigate the... I think he needs to choose Spanish, that's why. Can somebody tell him?
¿Me escuchan?
Iván, yo sí te escucho, quizás.
Iván, I can hear you. Maybe Gabriela, it's in the English channel. We have a little problem. Can you all hear me? I don't know if Ivan is in the Spanish channel. It could be that your audio is not working, maybe. We'll give you some like 20 seconds to the person so they can try to correct the audio. Bianca Santoyo. I don't know if the interpreter can give the information in the Spanish channel. Just saying that in the English channel, we cannot hear you anything. Gabriela, you're not able to hear? I think Ivan needs to choose Spanish. I don't know if already Ivan is there. Ivan, are you on the Spanish channel or on the off channel? I don't even know. I just clicked. Yes. You are in the English channel? I can hear him and I'm in the Spanish channel. Maybe your volume is too low. Now that you're speaking, I can hear it. But when they're translating, we don't have a translation in Spanish.
If interpretation can let them know that the main channel is in Spanish,
Ah.
please. Maybe that could help.
Yeah, Diana or Tanya, is there a better way to give instructions for folks?
Can you hear me, Amy? We're not able to give instructions if they're in the off channel because we can only choose English or Spanish now that we are assigned to the channels.
Manos levantadas, Mario y
The
Elvira.
English channel is Spanish.
Can you hear me in English?
Mario, you're in the Spanish channel?
No.
Can
Yeah,
everybody hear me in English? Okay.
Yeah, I could hear
Spanish
you.
interpreter.
English.
Okay.
You can hear fine?
Yeah, probably
But the
Ivan.
channel in English
Are
is
there any other
Spanish.
instructions that we need to give?
Just to make sure that Ivan is in the Spanish channel, not in the off channel.
Apologies to everyone for the technical difficulties.
Am-
I can hear you clearly, Yvonne.
Mhm.
If folks could confirm their
Can-
language.
Okay. If somebody in the English channel can hear me, this is Tanya, the interpreter. Can you tell Ivan to check that he is in the Spanish channel, not in the off channel, please?
Good to go.
Because Amy cannot hear me as well. I think Amy's in the off
Yvonne.
channel as well.
Sí,
This is
ok,
Liz.
perfecto. Entonces ya
Oh,
continúo.
Yvonne. Sorry to interrupt. Could you check
Pero-
to see if you are in the Spanish channel? Do you see on the bottom?
Yes, here says Spanish.
Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Ya lo
Yes.
revisamos 2 veces. No escuchamos nada hasta ahorita que me estás.
¿No escuchan nada?
Hmm. Maybe.
Alguien que está
Gracias.
alguien que esté en el canal de español.
Somebody in the Spanish channel, can you tell me that you can hear me?
Disculpe si nosotros sí lo escuchamos.
I'm sorry, yeah, we can hear you. Thank you.
Bueno, entonces.
Well,
trate nomás un poquito
just
lo-
try if you're not able to hear me.
Si no pueden, if they cannot hear me, it doesn't make sense for me to say anything.
Sí se
Pero,
escucha.
Yo
Okay.
diría que Gabriela.
I would say that, Gabriela, maybe you have to log out and log back in and try to join the Spanish channel to see if that helps, because I'm able to hear and that I'm in the Spanish channel. I just changed and I put the English channel, and that's how I hear him speaking. If we put it in Spanish and then I switch it to Spanish, well, if it works that way, we are all happy. Thank you, and I'm sorry for the interruption. I'm sorry for the technical problems. I am so sorry for interrupting. Don't worry about it. Let's continue. We'll talk about the mitigation measures. The most important point, or the points that are more important, are here on the screen. To mitigate the 72-hour acute risk and the 70-year lifetime cancer risk for non-occupational bystanders, which includes the residents and children living in the region. Acute risk is the human health hazard associated with the short-term exposure to a particular pesticide. Exposure is determined by monitoring or computer modeling, and hazards is determined from toxicity testing, also called toxicology tests. DPR scientists use worst-case application scenarios, computer models, and public comments to develop these regulations. When we're referring to the worst-case scenario, we're talking about that, for example, we have a lot of wind and a lot of rain and everything that it could be the worst-case scenario. We utilize that to make sure that our calculations are the most precise possible. At the end, the objective is to reduce the potential exposure to 1,3-D by reducing the release of 1,3-D in the air. And we want to reach this through the following measures. First, we are using something that's called setbacks from occupied structures and related requirements. And all of these are going to be seen in the next slides. Number 2, alternative field fumigation methods and total impermeable film, also called TIF. Also, a new soil moisture requirements. So now, to know that the points 1, 2, and 3 are working as they should, for tracking effectiveness, DPR will publish quarterly summaries and annual reports on 1,3D use. So let's start with number 1, setbacks from occupied structures and related requirements. We have to consider that these rules are very long, so we are going to try to simplify these 4 points. Number 1, 2, and 3, and the 4th one, that will be the follow-up for the effectiveness. Number 1, setbacks from occupied structures and related requirements. What is a setback distance? In English, again, setback distance. We'll have to differentiate different structures, the occupied and non-occupied. And the first point, number 1, we have the occupied ones. And this includes, like the word says, they're already occupied. And we're talking about residences, schools, hospitals, business, or other similar sites identified by the county agricultural commissioner. And also the non-occupied structures, those are these ag buildings, barns, livestock facilities, sheds, and outhouses. So the setback distance is from 100 to 500 feet. That's 150 meters. So that setback distance depends on 4 things: the field fumigation method. And sometimes you'll see that when I'm referring to FFM, that means field fumigation method. If you're looking at backwards in Spanish, that will be the method. 4 points: the field fumigation method, the application date from March to October or November to February, the region, if it's coastal or inland, and we're talking about the state. If the county has a beach, it's next to the beach, it's coastal, but if not, it's not. It depends on the humidity and the wind, and also the application rate and an acreage. We'll see an example here. This is a property, and remember that the restricted setback is the occupied property. So if we have a property and we have the yard that has a fence, the distance is starting from the house, not from the fence. So the distance will be that green line, not the red one. But the same way, we have the fence, and the distance will be from the field to the house, and not from the field to the fence. So that's why we are making that distinction here, the occupied and non-occupied zones. Now that we have to determine these different 4 characteristics to determine that setback, these rules are just putting 4 different tables. It could be a little confusing for people, and that's why DPR has created this virtual calculator for the setback distance. So the agriculture, when they want to know the distance that they have to have, it's a very easy step. We have the web page, and you can just scan this code with your cell phone. I apologize. With this code. And then you select the county, the fumigation method. And now for the people, unless we are involved in this field, we're not going to be able to understand the fumigation method, but the agricultures know. So you have to select the method, the application month, and more or less what amount you're using, how many pounds per acreage. depending on that, this table would auto-populate, and we will create this table, and we were able to know, depending on the things that we chose, what is the setback distance that we need. In some of the cases, that is not possible.
Okay.
Okay,
Vamos ahora a pasar.
let's
Entonces,
move on
distancias restringidas.
with the number one. It was setbacks.
Ahora pasamos al número dos.
We already explained that. Now we're going to number two. Those are the alternative field fumigation methods, FFM, and a total impermeable film.
Hemos agregado a este
And we
reglamento
added to these rules
totalmente impermeables, conocidas como lonas
those films that are impermeable,
mantienen el fumigante
that are called teeth, because they keep the fumigant beneath the trap. And we don't want the fumigants to go on the air. So those teeth tarps help a lot. So you have to consider that to have teeth, it has to be approved by the state. So it's not that you can use any plastic film. It has to be approved. The DPR conducted a field testing of these alternative methods, and they include injecting 1,3-D deeper into the soil up to the 24 inches, which also reduces potential for 1,3-D in the air. Before it was 18 inches, and now we're looking at 24. That is something better. We also developed new FFM using computer models and data from studies conducted in Shafter, close where you are, and also in other communities. And now we're going to the third point, that will be mitigation measures. I'm sorry, soil moisture requirements. In the DPR pilot studies, another effective mitigation measures was to increase the soil moisture from 25% to 50%. The options to accomplish those 50% are the following. The agriculture can irrigate with 3 inches of water from 48 to 72 hours prior to the fumigation. And they can also use that feel and appearance method, or also this sensor, soil moisture sensor. You can use any of these 3 alternatives, but the goal is to be able to reach that 50% humidity. Now, we were talking about the setback that we are incorporating. Also, we have those alternative methods of fumigation and the teeth tarps, and also more moisture in the soil. But the question is, how do we know if it works or not? So the new rules or regulations, it says that DPR will publish quarterly summaries and annual report on 1,3-D use.
Se publicará, como ya lo mencioné, resúmenes trimestrales.
As I mentioned, quarterly summaries will be published and an annual report of 1,3-D use statewide. Also, 1,3-D use will be reported in each township, and evaluation of the top 10 townships in different counties. The same way, we will report the data monitoring and evaluation of locations, including the 24-hour peak, the 72-hour peak, as well as 1-year concentrations. And all of this will help to determine, if additional restrictions are needed. So just to sum up, DPR has established new setback distances. Before it was up to 500 feet. Now it was 100, now it's 500. And now the new acreage limit is 80 acres. Now we have included the TIF tarps. As I mentioned, TIF tarps have the pesticide, and it avoids to go into the air. We have also incorporated new field fumigation methods. Now we can inject 1,3-D deeper into the ground, would prevent from spreading into the air. At the same time, we have incorporated a new soil moisture requirement. Before it was 25%, now it's 50%. And to see if all of this is working, we are also going to incorporate new quarterly and annual reports. In summary, a combination of these new mitigation measures will result in less 1,3-D release into the air. However, what can we do if we are exposed to 1,3-D? The potential symptoms include irritation to the skin, eyes, and mucous membranes, chest pain, or breathing difficulties. If you experience a pesticide-related emergency, you should call 911 immediately. If it is a non-emergency, you can also call the Agricultural Commissioner. In this case, we have Kern County Agricultural Commissioner, which is 661-868-6320. And if you are not in the Kern County, just remember this number, 187 Pest Line. A bit complicated to remember, but try to remember like 187 Pest Line so you can connect to your County Agricultural Commissioner in the county where you are located. Now, what to do if you are exposed to a pesticide in general? Remember that the most important is to get help. So we can go to a hospital or any healthcare provider as soon as possible. Until you get to that place, let the health providers know that you might have been exposed to a pesticide so they know what to do next. And if possible, take a picture of the pesticide container or the label. Also, you can call the Poison Control Center to get immediate first aid information for free and advice on what to do next. This number, the 1-800-222-1222, it's available 24/7, 7 days a week, and it has translation services available. That's everything for today. If you have any questions, we're here for it. Thank you. Maria Anabel? Yes, I have a question, Ivan. You mentioned that if you are exposed to a 3D chemist and you gave us the side effects, the problem is that we don't know like when this product has been exposed to the community, because Shafter community has 3 consecutive years with high numbers. And the people just found out later when there were people that had poisoned. That's the issue that we have right now. So if you go to the doctor to let them know that you have some itchiness, the first thing is that they said, oh, another type of exposure that you may have, like an allergy or something, without knowing what is actually really happening. When there was this poisoning episode, there were very high rates that even for the OEHA standard, it was so high. These are problems that we are facing right now, and also Arvin and Lamont. One of the top uses are in these areas. I know that they had some studies in the past, and they did some mitigation for Shafter to have this reduction of this chemic. But right now, we don't know like when or how or what time are these communities being exposed. These are the problems that we're facing, and we have to work with DPR, essentially to work with DPR to be able to notify the current county, because we have very high rates of 1,3-D. And we don't need more presentations, we need actions. It's been many years. This was before they did, we even had the AB 617, and we get a lot of presentations on the mitigations that you're doing. The studies that they've been carried out, it's been more than 5 years. We're on the 5th year now, and there hasn't been any changes. So this is the issue that we're having in the communities, and we need a radical change right now. We don't need any other presentation. We need actions from DPR, because locally people are the ones that are being exposed, and like we don't need to get more information. We need for DPR to establish a regulation and to send notifications for residents that are being exposed. Because if you start thinking, here the Shafter monitor, it's close to school and it has detected this like high rate of this pesticide. What does that mean? That these children at this school are exposed to it, and they're close to it. It's in front of a playground, so these are children that are exposed, and parents are not getting the information. That there are no notifications. The same as Arvin and Lamont, there are several schools that are close to the fields, and as you presented, that it doesn't have to be like close. You have to count from where you do a step to the field road. So there's been a lot of exposure that could cause harm to children who are close to this field. So my question for you is, what is DPR going to do? Not just mitigation process that you're doing.
Sorry, I'm going off my Spanglish and English is at the same time. What else are you gonna do? Because these communities are being exposed every day, and our children are being exposed. And you giving us a presentation about the mitigating process that you guys are doing in DPR does not help community members. You're just putting a Band-Aid to a big cut, and it's frustrating to hear that from DPR year after year after year after year. T-Lone started in Shafter. We're in the 5th year in Shafter, and we have a new community, Arvin and Lamont, and yet they're still being exposed. What else is DPR going to do above from the 617 to prevent all these exposures? Thank you.
Sí, en primer lugar, aquí estamos para responder
Yes,
cualquier
first
tipo.
of all, we are here to answer any type of question and comments. Although it is off topic, we're here to have dialogue. When we heard this type of comments, it concerned us, even though some people don't believe it. We were worried about it, and it's the reason why we have done studies in the past 3 years. The regulation that we just presented, it's something that it took us years to collect, and it's been over 1 year to prepare it. So we are trying to do something. We are trying to help the community, and we're trying that for this type of mitigations, the 1 through D levels go down, because I repeat again, we are incorporating this TIF. We are doing a lot of changes to decrease the 1 through D levels. Here we also have my supervisor, Niela, and the manager of the Mint Division. I would like for them to also add something.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation, Yvonne. Just to go off of that, like he said, this regulation that we just presented on is the action to prevent the exposures to 1,3-D. So all of those things that Yvonne talked about, like higher soil moisture, that higher soil moisture, it keeps the 1,3-D in the soil and means it doesn't go into the air and reduces exposures to 1,3-D. Or if you're injecting deeper into the soil, it also keeps the soil into, it keeps the pesticide in the soil, and so there's less exposure to 1,3-D. So all of those things that Yvonne talked about, all of those mitigation measures, they are in place right now to prevent exposures to 1,3-D. And so we are doing those things. This regulation is our action. I also saw Min go, I saw his, so he probably has more to add. Something that I also wanted to mention, and I'll be talking about this during my updates. This isn't going to be our only regulation on 13D. We're currently working on a regulation jointly with OWEHA to also reduce exposures to 13D in the ambient air. And then I will also talk about this during my update. DPR is also working on the statewide notification systems to let people know when applications are occurring, and that's also in the process. Unfortunately, it takes time, and I understand that's really frustrating, but those things are in the works. But what Yvonne just talked about, it is in place now, so less 13D is getting into the air. Sorry, Min.
No, I think Daniela covered it all. I recognize Bianca, and we've worked together several years, and I understand the frustration from many of the community members and the people that live in and around this region. Because it seems like, obviously working for the government, it doesn't seem that action's happening at the pace that people may want. And recognizing that for us, for DPR, we work across the state. So doing any kind of regulation, we have to be statewide, and we have to be able to address all stakeholders. But we did emphasize specifically for this regulation and a lot of the work done for this, we did bring in the input of Arvin, Lamont. We did bring in the input of Kern County, Shafter, speaking about when we piloted all the work that was done here. A lot of the work from the application studies were pulled from this area. So a lot of the work that we did to ground truth and make the regulations stick and work definitely came from things that stemmed from the grassroots stuff that came from these communities. So with that being said, as Daniela mentioned, the regulation is our action item, but it also, our team also has a commitment for the follow through here. Our team has air monitoring stations that are here year round. So we're constantly monitoring for that as well. So our commitment goes beyond just the regulation, right? So we have that, we have our air monitoring stations. So we have our checks and balances. So should the reg, we're gonna monitor this and hope, and if exposures, as you mentioned, if exposures are continuing, we're gonna come right back to this and make sure that doesn't happen. But through the scientific work that my team has put in, we're confident that we're addressing the issues that are happening, not only here, but statewide.
I want to do a follow-up. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I understand that you've been doing the mitigation process here in the area, but how about Arvin and Lamont? It's another community that just because of the location, we need that monitor also in that location for 13D as being one of the top uses in the area. What is DPR going to do about it? I know in Shafter we do have a monitor, and we've had those elevations and the mitigations of having more moisture in the soil and things like that. I know in the summer, I believe Arvin was the one that presented in the Arvin and Lamont that we're going to do a study in the summer and about 13D. But my question, what is going to happen if there's no monitoring to make sure that there's not going to be an exposure in our community when these applications are happening in the area? What else is DPR going to do? Or the air district also? I'm putting everybody on the spot right now because we need to work on this together. I think monitoring should be in place when these type of studies do happen, and to make sure that communities are not being exposed through 13D. It's very nice to have these studies in the area. It's very nice to understand that different types of moisture, tarps, and things like that is important to diminish the reduction, but also what's going to happen to communities that are in the process of being in the study. Is there going to be an extra monitoring in that side, or just actually a monitor for Arvin and Lamont? Because I know that in Shafter they do have one, but in Arvin and Lamont we do not have one. what's going to happen to the community of Arvin and Lamont? Is DPR also going to take a little bit of the funding to do the monitoring there on that side, or is it just going to be the study by itself?
So I can speak to a little bit of that. So funding for air monitoring, that's obviously that's up in the air, and the team is always working to see where we can put air monitorings or where we need to shuffle air monitorings depending on our needs. But the air monitoring is not the single thing that we track. As Yvonne mentioned, we also do tracking of usage, and then within that usage tracking, we do modeling for exposure. So that's our primary governing body, and that's our primary use of enforcement as well. So with all of the township and all the users across the state, we actually are tracking usage across the state. And so Arvin Lamont falls within that as well. So we're actively tracking usage across the state. We're actively modeling across the state. So we have a pretty good idea of what's getting up into the air. So air emissions potentially across the state. So, I mean, it's not the answer that everybody wants, mainly because budget shortfalls within the state is what they are. But we do investigate or analyze throughout every 5 years or so, 4 to 5 years, where we put our monitors depending on, how, trends are within the state, how agriculture shifts, climate change and whatnot. So we're always constantly looking to do that. We also, as you guys can see publicly, we do put in budget change proposals every year to increase our air monitoring network. So it's not for lack of trying that we put in money to put more of these air monitoring stations. And as y'all know, when we talk about air monitoring, the equipment to put it out there is not the issue. That's the money of it is not hard. It's the laboratory analysis costs that eats up the chunk of the money. So like that's where we're having issues supporting it in the long run. And we've talked about this before. We're happy to talk about what that cost breakdown is. And we're constantly looking at different options to support that, whether it be grants across the way or whatnot. It's just for us, it's been difficult to find a support mechanism for it. We've looked at different ways to support that. We've looked at different ways to shuffle our air monitoring stations depending on need. But within these regions, Yvonne touched on it before, we've had seasonal studies, we've had application site studies, and all those things feed into a larger these larger regulation buildings. So they're as important as long-term monitoring.
Thank you, Bianca, for the questions and DPR for the answers. It is a really important topic to bring up and discuss in this space. I see another hand up from Mario. Thank you for waiting patiently. We'd love to hear your question.
Yeah, could you guys hear me? Get up. Get up. Could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The only problem that we are having, and a lot of people are speaking out, thank you for that. And like I always said, we need to educate our community. And the only problem is that we are not educating our community to get a better understanding of what's going on. I don't know why it's the reason. I was asking for a digital monitor, billboard to give information to the community. And what I know of, they denied it. We need to educate our people because we're barely learning about this stuff. And I feel that a digital, billboard to give information to our community, that'd be nice. But let's see if that happens. 2, I was gonna tell DBR, there's new rules and regulations that you have. It sounds mighty good, that stop, this pesticide to go on the air. But how about our ground, our drinking water? It's gonna go to our drinking water. because right here, you know, the recycled water, you know, they dump many miles. They got decades in the same spot. Pesticides are getting into our drinking water. I want to know what DBR is thinking about that one, or you guys even think about that one. Could you answer that one?
Yes, thank you. Gracias, Mario. Mi cerebro se fue al inglés por un segundo. Gracias, Mario, por tu pregunta.
Thank you, Mario, for your question. Because we're talking about other programs and other areas, I'm going to pass the word to our boss, to Min, so he can explain a little bit of what was mentioned just now.
Yeah,
Mario.
because that, I mean, it sounds mighty good. You know, the pesticides going into our ground deeper. It stays there every year. They've been pouring and pouring more pesticides. It stays in the ground. Where do we get our drinking water? The water from the ground.
Yeah, Mario, I can answer that question for you real quickly. So a part of our branch also has a groundwater and a surface water component. So and also within DPR has a toxicology and ecotox component. So we've looked at for this specific chemical 1,3-dichloropropanone, it does not pose a threat to groundwater because it's a fumigant. So once it's injected into the ground, it actually becomes a gas, so it floats completely straight up. So
yeah, it's become a gas. But remember what you guys said. It stays in the ground. You stay on the ground. It ain't you know, go out in the air.
It breaks down in the ground. So I think that's the part of the conversation that we don't get into that much. But it breaks down in the and the active ingredient breaks up and goes up into the air. So but yeah, to answer your question, our groundwater team and surface water team, along with some of the other groups here, 1,3-D does not pose a threat to our groundwater. So
okay, well, we'll test for that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. And just to your first question or point about the education and outreach, I'll just remind the Arvin Lamont CSC that we do have an outreach subcommittee newly formed, and more information on that will come in tomorrow's CSC meeting. But thinking about great ideas, Mario, so thank you. We have a few more hands up, and I just want to note we are reaching the end of this agenda item, so we'll just make sure to get through all of these questions. We can start with Maria.
Sí, buenas tardes a todos.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to give my point of view, my comment. The presentation that was just given by DPR sounds really good, actually, but they just said something that it's been more than 5 years doing this research and doing everything that they did to do these changes. My question is, do you know if in these 5 years, how many people have died of cancer waiting for this pesticide to be removed? Or like for us, will we just to remove it, take it out of the market? That's my question. Do you know how many people have died? Many people right now has asthma, cancer, allergies, breathing problems, but we also had a lot of friends and family members that have died of cancer, throat cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer. In these 5 years, how many people have died? I heard every time that I go to these meetings that they are monitoring the air. We are doing research, but our community is dying. Our community, our people are dying of cancer. So I think that wouldn't be easier to just have this notification that will let us know when they apply this 1,3-D pesticide that we are exposed to the smell of it, to breathe it. Wouldn't it be easier to do this notification when they do this pesticide? Because they are researching to do these changes, but people are dying. People are dying of cancer. That's my comment and also a question at the same time. Thank you very much.
I'll just flag this real quick since Danielle is going to make a quick update on this later on. But to answer your question, that's why we have the notification system that's concurrently being worked on by DPR. I do understand the frustration. By no means are we exempt from the speed of how government works. I apologize on that behalf. You know, it's just a byproduct of how we have to do things legally and binding. Yes, so to answer your question, we will be talking about the notification system, which will provide you with the notification that you're requesting, and that should be and y'all can give an update on that, and that's going to be later on.
Yeah, thank you for the comments and thank you for the response. A couple more hands up and we can go to Sandra.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to be really brief, and kind of circle back on what Bianca was saying. I really do think that we need some type of pesticide monitoring in the Arvin Lamont area. And while I understand like the state is in a deficit and money is tight right now, I don't really think that's an excuse. I think maybe we can all work together to identify some type of funding source to ensure that there's a monitor in the Arvin Lamont area. And I think it's really concerning knowing that an exposure of this type of pesticide will cause cancer. Working with the community of Fuller Acres, there has been a lot of folks that have passed away due to cancer. And my fear is if we aren't monitoring it, how will we know what's actually causing it, right? So I definitely vouch for finding some type of sources that will fund monitoring in the Arvin and Lamar area.
Thank you for the comment, Sandra. And I do think we have an update on the pesticide monitoring for Arvin Lamont coming up. And I see one more hand from Gabriela.
Muy buenas tardes. No, no es mi esposa, soy yo,
Good
José Ojeda.
afternoon. It's me, Jose Ojeda. Gabriela is my wife. I have a comment and at the same time it's a question. We don't want to have more monitoring. We want for you to do something because monitoring, it's been a while, and between monitoring and monitoring, there is nothing done at the end. And then 1,3-D, it's a very dangerous pesticide that unfortunately, if in some states they're forbidden, some countries are they forbid this pesticide. So I don't know if it is necessary to harvest the products that we have or to deal with the plagues. Because I work in the field. Unfortunately, I came to work here because I lost my job. I was a chef and I lost my job during COVID and I came to work in the field. And I see how many things are happening in the field that you don't realize when you go to this culture that at the end they spray it. And then the next day we have to go in and start working in the grapes or whatever. But they do not notify you of what they did. And then you just have this smell in your clothes and you have to wash it in a different laundry, not where you do your regular laundry. And sometimes for us, we don't have enough money to have 2 different laundry machines and double expenses on it. So from workers that have been there for many years, they said you just have to bring boots, long sleeves, long pants, cover your head, goggles, and a mask. Why? Because as soon as you go into the field, they say that because you could no longer have children if you go into the field like that. But our supervisors, they don't say anything that, no, you just have to wait a couple of hours to start working. They don't say anything like that. They don't even say what they spray on it. We just started having these watery eyes, and this smell, it's so strong. And if you go to the car, or if one of the farm workers, if you go to the car of a farm worker and you smell it, it's very, very, very strong.
Tenemos que salir a
Sadly,
buscar.
we have to go and do that to survive, and we want solutions. And if it's possible to get rid of that pesticide, that would be, it won't be the end, but it'll be a step forward, because it's killing a lot of people. Thank you.
Gracias por
Thank you for giving us, or for expressing those concerns. I know that impression that sometimes we give is that we are not doing anything. That's the impression that you may have, but in reality, we are working. This takes time. And one of the reasons that we are here, present, Aniela, Min, and me, is because at the end of the day, your comments, your concerns, we have them present. And when we get them to the next meeting, and when we are planning researches in the future, we are always translating everything that you are saying, and we're bringing it to the table so we can try and do something.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. And thank you, Jose, for the comments, and everyone for sharing. I know it's not easy to share that kind of experience with the group, and just really appreciate you being in this space and being honest about what is going on. It's really important to keep hearing it, even though it's not easy to talk about. I see a hand still up, and so I just want to see if there's any follow-up question or comment. Oh, okay. Maybe. Any follow-up question? Or I see the hand went back down, so feel free to put it in the chat if you do have another question or comment. But if nothing else is coming up, I think we can transition. I'm not sure if that hand is another question. Maybe I'll pause to see.
Sí, lo único
Yes. The only thing that I wanted to say is that I'm sorry. Sometimes it's very hard the way we express ourselves, but just looking at so many things that are happening, and I know that it's not easy. It's no from one day to another, like let there be light and there's going to be light. No, those are protocols, and you have to follow the steps, and it takes time. But I believe that if we focus more and put our effort in. Thank you.
Gracias, Jose. Thank you so much, Jose, for your comments. There's no need to apologize. We welcome and encourage you to share your lived experience. And most importantly, this is why we're doing this work. We're all in it together. It's part of the struggle of all of the injustices that continue to happen, especially in the Arvin Lamont area. What you shared today is something that we all need to continue to hear about, so that new policies and new legislation can be developed. It is not fair. It's not okay that you and residents in this community continue to be exposed to things that are causing harm. And, we are here trying our best. And thank you, Yvonne, for coming today and giving the presentation in Spanish and really talking about how this process is driven by state, by budget funding, by many levels of bureaucracy, that unfortunately, that's just how business operates. And we're doing the best we can on a daily basis. But we cannot ignore that meanwhile, as you all have mentioned, people are in fact continuing to be harmed. Cancer is there, the research is there, the science is there. As a fellow scientist, I am your facilitator for tonight, along with Liz, but I'm also a scientist by training. I can't ignore the science, and the science is there. So thank you for sharing what you shared today, Senor Ojeda. With that said, I did see that Carb just joined. I know we wanted to make space for some updates. We are on overtime, so we're 7 minutes overtime. James, I don't know if you have a quick update, and we're going to transition to wrapping up this meeting as soon as possible. If folks can stay on for the next 5 minutes, that would be great. I can't hear James, but I wasn't sure what channel I'm in, so I wasn't sure what language to speak earlier. Can you guys hear James? No, no one can hear James. Lost James.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
And just a slight update. I got my times crossed. I think we were going until 5:30, not 5.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll try to be brief. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I just want to give a quick update on the CARB monitoring, the progress of CARB monitoring. A little bit separate from what was mentioned earlier with the Shafter monitors. But yeah, my name is James Pham. I'm the monitoring liaison for the California Air Resources Board. For anyone that's new here, I think we have some Shafter members. But I just want to give a quick update on the siting. We did a short tour of the Arvin and Lamont area, and just want to share my findings with the community. So, okay. Can you guys see the PowerPoint, or is it my screen?
I see a blank screen, James.
Okay, try this again.
It does say slide 1, so maybe you just need to go to the next slide.
Okay. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see this. Okay, are we doing good? Okay. Still nothing?
I'm not seeing anything, James.
Okay.
Is it the presentation that you have?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I just want to give a quick update on the tour that we did in the Arvin Lamont area. This kind of encompasses a lot of the work that started when the CSC was starting, the formation of the CSC, because we received different locations of concern within the community dating back, I think, a couple of years now. So yeah, I just want to do a quick review on what we were looking for when we were looking for sites. So we needed something that was secure, had power, was accessible to our staff, for us to place our monitors, and then also have unobstructed airflow.
James, I'm going to have to interrupt you, James. Apologies for that. I don't know if something's with your mic when you talk, it's going off, and we can't hear you.
Okay, I'll try to face my computer. I think that's where the mic is.
Wherever your mic is, yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah. So just reviewing the map that was, we've shown this before, where the comments, most of the comments were. This is just a heat map of kind of where the general interest was. A lot of it was kind of in the Lamont and Fuller Acres area, and then we had the Weed Patch area, and also Arvin itself. So I did visit about 18 sites in the entire community boundary. So I have it broken down kind of by the general neighborhood that we looked at. So everything that's highlighted in green, we think is feasible for our placement of monitors. So, and then everything in red that we didn't see anything that, or any places that where we can put our monitors and kind of still meet a lot of the criteria that we had laid out. The yellow ones are possible, could be possible backups that we do. For the Lamont area, the Sunset School in Wheat Patch, and either the El Camino Real Elementary or Bear Mountain Elementary in Arvin. So in terms of where we are in planning, we're starting to finalize and secure sites and finalize our monitoring plan. So if everything goes smoothly, we hope to start monitoring in the summer. And that's all I have for today. If there's any comments, you know, or questions, I can take them.
Bianca, go ahead.
How many pesticides is it going to be monitoring when it picks up? Is it going to be the 32 like in Shafter, or is there a certain limit?
Yeah, this monitoring is specifically in the Arvin Lamont AB 617 boundaries. You know, we've been working on this since the very beginning. I think Shafter is you know, a separate community, might have its own process.
My question is, how many pesticides is it going to monitor in that area? Is it going to be the regular as DPR has 32 pesticide, or is it going to be a certain chemicals that the community addresses as the top usage in the area?
So this is a little bit different from what DPR is monitoring is. We are doing an ambient intensive project. So we're focusing on kind of 3 different sites in the area and monitoring for 1,3-D and MITC.
Could you explain that on those 2 last words?
Mario, can you ask your question again? I didn't hear you.
I just want to know if you could explain those 2 last words. What they're looking for.
We're planning to monitor for 1,3-dichloropropene and methyl isothiocyanate, which is a breakdown product of methan sodium or methan potassium.
Yeah, but what creates it? Those are things that I really do not understand what it is.
Well, these are, we presented a little bit about this in the past, and these are the highest, or at least some of the higher use pesticides in the area. So these are just compounds that applicators and farmers are using in the area.
Okay. I want to know if one of the days maybe we could get together and take a little ride and see these areas where you guys were looking at. But I could get an idea, you know, what's really that type of chemical.
You know, we're not sure what's being used where, but you know, these areas are what was proposed or pinpointed in at different meetings throughout this whole process. So we had some CSCs that this was all on the social pinpoint where community members placed their pinpoints on where they were concerned on exposure to some of these pesticides.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mario. Lily, did you want to add some context? Lily, go ahead. Maybe that's not a hand raise. Right. Any other things to share, James?
That was all. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you for sharing your screen and for today's updates. We do have some other general updates, as we mentioned at the top of the hour, from DPR. So at this time, I'm going to pass it to Daniela to give us an overview of some updates. And just want to remind folks that are here from the Shafter CSC that these updates are specific to Arvin Lamont, but we anticipate at DPR also having other comprehensive updates at the Shafter meeting that's coming up. Aniela?
Oh no, these also apply to Shafter as well, so that's good. Yeah.
Oh, good, perfect.
Okay, so I have two major updates. The first is on new regulations that we're developing for 13D, which is what Yvonne just presented on. So Yvonne just gave a presentation on regulations to protect like residents from 13D, but now we're also working on a regulation that's for farm workers. And we're doing this regulation with OEHA. And we just hit a milestone for this regulation where we have to issue something called a risk management directive, or RMD, to establish a regulatory target. And we just released that last week. And so that level that we're regulating to is based on consultation and work with OEHA, CARB, the air districts, and CDFI. And so that's just kicking more things into motion, and we are doing work on that regulation. So the next update I have is related to the statewide notification system, because we've gotten a few questions about the statewide notification system. So DPR has been working to identify a county, including the possibility of Kern County, to conduct an additional beta test of the proposed statewide notification system. And DPR anticipates that we'll have a decision on any additional beta testing in the near future. However, in the process, we are continuing with our notification rulemaking process, and we're continuing to refine our system and our system designed to support a smooth system rollout once the regulation is finalized. And DPR also received comments from the public on that proposed regulation, and we're reviewing those comments now. Those are the updates I have, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
We'll just pause for a few seconds to see if there's any questions.
Yes, Bianca.
So at the moment, you're letting us know that it's not clear if Kern is going to be the next beta testing for the notification. My understanding is that the county was waiting on DPR's legal representation to make it possible here in Kern. I was wondering, has there been any updates on that conversation, or is there something we could do as CSC to make it possible to have the next notification here in Kern, as we've had the number of issues on pesticide exposure in the area?
My understanding is that those talks between DPR and Kern County are ongoing, and that I don't have any specific information besides I know those talks are ongoing. And in terms of additional things from the CSC, I think having this conversation now, and I'll just communicate that information to my bosses and Min's bosses at DPR.
Go ahead.
Just a follow-up, is it possible we could get an information, any update information via email if we receive that updates sooner than later, so we could understand what's the next process? I know that in chapter, I'm here in chapter. This is our last year of our 617, and pesticide notification came in place in chapter, and this is our 5th year, and not having notification is frustrating. So if we could get updates as soon as possible would be incredible. Just to get any updates and to see where we could do the follow-up also.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know it's been a long process, so I'll let everybody know.
Anna, I see you unmuted. Did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry. Let me look how I
can mute you. That's fine. Don't worry about it. It happens. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anila, for those updates. That concludes the general updates for today's pesticide subcommittee. We do have other general agency updates that you'll hear about at tomorrow for the Arvin Lamont residents that you'll hear about at tomorrow's CSC meeting. In the time that we have left, we would like to open up the floor for comments and suggestions and next steps. So we know the next pesticide subcommittee meeting is scheduled to occur on May 28th. Wanting to know if folks have any comments, general suggestions. Thank you, Senora Ojeda, for your comments today, and for everyone else who made comments and suggestions. That helps DPR and other agencies kind of think about what content they need to bring to these meetings. Wondering if there's more comments or suggestions or recommendations that you'd like to provide in the last 5 minutes that we have. Lily?
Yeah, hi, thank you.
Oh, you
I've muted myself, I'm sorry. Thank you for the time to speak briefly. I was listening to the whole meeting and understand the frustrations about like the difficulties in monitoring and getting the right amount of information or the proper data that we're missing in our data gaps. And to the point of hearing also, you know, the budget constraints that we all have, I just wanted to kind of uplift the idea that 13-week seasonal intensive monitoring that's being proposed in Arvin Lamont for the 1,3D and the MITC. We are still actually working interagency to address the fumigant monitoring that was done in Eastern Coachella Valley that had some of the same fumigants. And so I just wanted to try to uplift that 13-week seasonal intensive monitoring does not address chronic exposure. So in thinking about moving forward, thinking maybe about how to design monitoring to be more informative, maybe addressing a different kind of exposure or something like that, just thinking broadly like how to plan it so that we get something new, something helpful, something, you know, that maybe bridges something we don't know, and just opening it up to ideas of how to design things together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Aniela?
I forgot to mention, for the chapter meeting, which is in a few weeks on Monday, April 8th, we will be giving Jimmy, who's here, will be giving a presentation on the chapter monitoring results. And so he'll also be talking about use data in chapter. And I know there's a lot of chapter people here in case they're wondering about, okay, what are we detecting around chapter? We'll be providing that information.
Thank you, Aniela, for making that connection. Seeing other folks who are here, wondering if there's any other suggestions, recommendations for our next pesticide subcommittee meeting.
Oh, yeah. No.
Hello? Okay. Gustavo, did you accidentally unmute?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, it's good to hear your voice either way. I appreciate everyone contributing to tonight's meeting. This concludes our meeting. We will be continuing the conversation about pesticides in the regular CSC meeting. As a reminder for CSC members, subcommittees are an opportunity to dive deeper into any one given topic and to provide your topic-specific comments and suggestions. But all major decisions about CSC committee recommended actions and decisions happen at the CSC meetings. So thank you so much for joining today. Really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us this evening. I hope everyone has nice plans for this evening and can unwind and relax. And we will be seeing some of you at tomorrow's CSC meeting. Good night, everyone.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Good
Bye.
night, everyone. Good night. Good night.